Hey Tamers, welcome back to Hero Games. It's your boy Red. Today we're going to be looking at a deck profile for a updated black deck for BT5 format. We are updating black Craniamon, essentially black blockers for BT5. Now black is definitely not anywhere near meta or very overplayed right now. Black struggles in a lot of matchups against higher tier decks, yellow especially. Green can definitely be troublesome. But I like black. Black has a lot of fun tools between de-digivolving and Reboot and the immense amount of blockers that this has. Black has so many variety of tools. There's all kinds of cool ways you can mix and match inheritables. So despite it struggling, we still built one. I love it. We took it to tournament. We got stomped on a bit, but it was still pretty good. It was still pretty good, I felt like. So we're going to kind of talk about it a bit and some of the troubles that we had. Alright guys, so starting with our Digitama, we are running 4 copies of the BT2 Kapurimon. Now you've seen this in almost every black deck. Black doesn't have a whole lot of variety when it comes to their Digitamas. It's usually either going to be one of 2 Kapurimons, the one that gives plus DP on Reboot and the one that gives plus DP on blocker on your turn. Now despite this being a blocker heavy deck, we are actually going for the Reboot Kapurimon. Simply because we'll be doing most of our offenses with Reboot Digimon anyways, if all things go well, and the blocker boost is only on your own turn, which you really want your blockers to be boosted on your opponent's turn, so in my opinion, it's a irrelevant card to have. Moving on to our level 3 rookies, we have 4 copies of arguably the most important level 3 for black, the ToyAgumon from the BT2. So this is inheritable of Reboot, so you want almost every single one of your Digimon to have Reboot on it. As much Reboot as you can get on the field as possible. What Reboot does, it allows you to unsuspend on your opponent's unsuspend phase. So if you attack with it and it survives, then on your opponent's turn, it reboots. So if you have a blocker and you still want to be aggressive with your blocker, this allows your blocker to attack and then still block the next turn. It also protects us from counterattacking since it unsuspends, your opponent can't swing into it, minus some special effects, obviously. And then we are running 1, 2, 3 copies of BT2 Hagurumon, specifically just because it's a 2-drop card. Commanderman from BT3, I believe, would also serve the same purpose there. I just like it because of the machine aesthetic in terms of this deck. But yep, just drop down for 2 memory and you have a level 3 easily on the field. Next up, we are running 3 copies of BT2 Gotsumon. Gotsumon is a blocker while also level 3. You can also trade him out for the starter deck Augumon that is also a blocker, but that one is a blocker for 1000 DP, whereas this one is a blocker for 3000 DP. I opted for it just so at least if a level 3 did swing, there's a possibility of a trade or even a win if you have a Tamer out on the field. Of course, as opposed to the Augumon, who doesn't cost memory to attack, this Gotsumon does cost memory to attack. But we don't really want to be attacking with this Gotsumon if we can avoid it. Then we run 2 copies of the black ToyAgumon. So black ToyAgumon's inheritable effect, if your opponent did not attack with a Digimon, then you get to draw an extra card on your turn. This is pretty good with blockers, because obviously if you have your blockers set up, your opponent won't want to swing into them. I like to get this out early game if possible and put a blocker on top of him, preferably a 1-cost blocker, so we can just have a blocker out on the first or second turn, and then your opponent's not looking to attack that early without swinging into your blocker, so you're going to get some extra draw power early in the game. Late game, it's not really that helpful because your opponent's always going to be looking to swing late game. Your opponent should have Digimon out, but I can swing over most of your blockers anyways if you're not playing up to par. So that's why I only run 2 of this guy. You could run up to 4, obviously, if you really want to emphasize the draw power, but I find him kind of useless late game, so I'm not really looking to draw him a whole lot, so we're only running him at 2. For our level 4s, we are running 4 copies of BlackGaogamon from BT5. This is the new addition for this set here with the BT5. BlackGaogamon is nearly identical to its Greymon counterpart. It's 5 to play, 2 to evolve, 5000 DP. It's inheritable. If this Digimon has Reboot, it gains jamming. So if you can get the ToyAgumon underneath it, then you can put this one on top of it, and then any of your level 5s will have jamming. So you can start swinging for free, not have to worry about higher DP Digimon security, and then you get the Reboot. And we'll go over to some of the combos that's going to come up with that here in a minute. Just one more thing to say about this Digimon too before I put him away. I run him over the Greymon that does the same thing. Even though I love Greymon, Greymon's one of my favorite Digimon, I opted for this version of the jamming card, simply because he has 1000 more DP. I put that in here just in case you run up against yellow. Having just an extra 1000 DP to avoid being deleted can really be important sometimes. It's only 1000 DP, so it's not going to give you a huge grace against yellow, but anything is better than nothing. Next, we are running 3 copies of Mekanorimon. Mekanorimon is a BT5 blocker. He is a 4 cost to drop, 3 to evolve, which is kind of high for a level 4 to evolve, but that is because of his ability. So not only is he a blocker that can't attack, mind you, because of his other effect, but on your opponent's turn, if your opponent attacks and it blocks and survives the blocking, deletes the Digimon, it unsuspends. So this is a great early drop blocker. It counters Rookie Rush or any other kind of lower Digimon attacks they're trying to get in there. You have 6000 DP, you can just keep blocking anything that's lower than it without it dying. It also keeps it protected from your opponent trying to swing with a low-end Digimon, then go in for a high-end Digimon. The 6000 DP is pretty good, and if we have our Tamer, we'll see later on, it can get even higher. Our next level 4 is the 1-drop DarkTyrannomon. DarkTyrannomon is a blocker with 5000 DP. So he's good for getting just a cheap blocker on the field. He's 1-drop, so he can also just evolve for 1 if we need to get out quickly enough. He does lose 2 memory to attacks, though, so we don't want to be attacking with him, even with a reboot. But it's a good early blocker to get out. For our last level 4, we are running 4 copies of BT2 Numemon. Numemon is such a crucial card to black, I feel like. So it's a level 4, but it acts as a level 3, which is why we're a little level 4 heavy on this deck here. You can play him just for 3 or evolve for 1. So he's good for cases where you want to just quick skip into a level 5 without having to worry about level 3. Or if you have a level 3 and you really need to just get that 1 Evo without having a DarkTyrannomon, you can evolve him for 1. So he's a very versatile level 4. Comes in handy in a lot of situations. For our level 5s, we are running 3 copies of Andromon. Andromon is the level 5 blocker for this deck here from BT2. He is a 7 to drop, 3 to evolve, 7000 DP starting out. He's a blocker that does not cost memory to attack, so this is one of the ideal cards you want to see when you start building up your stacks here. He is great to get out early game if you have the reboot game going. You can put out ToyAgumon with BlackGaogamon on top of him, and then Andromon on top of that. So this is one of the ideal setups you want to start seeing early game. This allows the Andromon to have reboot and jamming, so he can swing on your opponent's turn. As long as it's not a security card, he's not going to get deleted by anything because of the jamming, and then he reboots back into a blocker stage right afterwards. So this is the ideal setup that we want to be going for in this deck. But just in case we have other plans besides that level 5 blocker, we also run level 5 Black Mach Galgamon. So he naturally has reboot, and then his inheritable is, if a Digimon's reboot, it gives an extra 2000 DP. So he's a standard 3 to evolve, 7000 DP. If you have him with the BlackGaogamon underneath him, then he'll have jamming, and this way you're able to circumvent some of the issues with the level 3s not having a lot of inheritables. If you don't have a ToyAgumon, you can still put the BlackGaogamon down and then put down the BlackMachGaogamon down. So now he has jamming because of his natural reboot ability. This isn't as ideal as the Andromon setup, but the Andromon setup does require that specific level 3. So if you don't have it, this is your go-to backup option to be able to start swinging early. And he'll reboot on your opponent's phase and be safe from counterattack. We run just 2 more level 5s here, 2 copies of WaruMonzaemon. Instead of running 4 copies of either of the other level 5s, I decided to run 3, 3, and then 2. He's a 5 to drop, 2 to evolve, level 5, so he's a quick way to get into a level 6 if we need a level 6 sooner rather than later. Ideally, we'd rather be attacking with our level 5s, either the BlackMachGaogamon with jamming or the Andromon setup with jamming and then blocker next turn. But in cases where we can't get to those, or we need to get to our level 6s in more of a priority fashion, this will get us there quicker. Now, the start of the deck, we are running 3 copies of the Royal Knight himself, Craniamon. Craniamon is our level 6 of this deck, our go-to level 6. He is blocker, and then his particular effect, all turns, all your Digimon with blocker cannot be deleted by your opponent's card effects. So this protects against Gaia Force, this protects against Trump Sword, this protects against Retaliation. Does not specifically protect against DP reduction from yellow, does not protect against returning the hand from the blue cards. So there are some ways around it, but depending on the deck you're running from, this becomes an impenetrable defense. The ideal setup is having a Craniamon on the field while having a variety of blockers, because once you start having a bunch of these blockers, your opponent has to deal with them with higher DP Digimon. And that's not always the case for some colors. This hard stomps purple because it removes their retaliation or their delete effects. Our other level 6 is 2 copies of WarGreymon from BT2. WarGreymon has Reboot naturally, so he gets access to the jamming and the plus 2000 DP from the Mach Galgamons. And then he also is a blocker, of course, so he's protected by Craniamon's effects. We prefer to have Craniamon on the field, but WarGreymon from Black is 3 to evolve as opposed to Craniamon's 4 to evolve. Sometimes that 1 memory makes all the difference. Or if we already have the Craniamon on the field, this is a way of just getting a buffer blocker on top of the Andromon. For our level 7s, we are running 2 copies of Omnimod Zord. Omnimod Zord is the new BT5 level 7 for the black and purple builds, respectively. His effects: first, when Digivolving, we get to trash the top 3 cards of our deck. Then we can play up to 2 black or purple Digimon, in our cases it'll be black, that are play cost of 8 or less, which essentially means is we get 2 level 5 or lowers free on the field, so we can put them on top of the WarGreymon or the Craniamon and bring back 2 Andromons or an Andromon and a Mekanorimon. It's a free way to get a bunch of blockers on the field real quick. And if we still have the Craniamon on the field, then they're protected by the Craniamon as well. And then he can also deal with threats on the field. When he swings, we remove the level 6 option to automatically destroy a Digimon with a play cost of 12 or less, which is essentially just about any level 6 Digimon. This is a really good card to get defensive and get aggressive all at the same time. The 6 memory is a bit of much, but most level 7s are going to have that anyways. Still a go-to good option. For our Tamers, we're running 2 copies of Joe Keto, who will give us an extra memory if we start our turn with a blocker on the field, and we have blockers on nearly every stage. And then running 2 copies of Tai Kamiya, who on our opponent's turn will give our blockers an extra 1000 DP and will set us to 3 memory every turn. And if you have both of these on the field, then you're getting more than 3 memory on a perfect setup, obviously. And then for our option cards, we are running just 4 copies of Ultimate Flare. Ultimate Flare is one of our hard removal options. De-Digivolve a Digimon by 3 stages, and then delete any Digimon on the field with a play cost of 3 or less. It's 8 to play, so we really want this in our security, obviously. But sometimes you don't get that, and you might have to hard play it. But it's a good board wipe if your opponent is going a little too hard into Rookie Rush to get around your blockers. Alright, so that's our Black Craniamon build. I had a lot of fun building this. I had a lot of fun playing it today, too, at our local tournament. Some issues that it can come up against: red Shoutmon decks swing for extremely high DP, so your blockers don't matter a whole lot. That's something you've got to worry about. You definitely need to be very on top of removing that threat as much as possible. The De-Digivolve isn't going to get you very far since they're stacking multiple level 6s anyways, so that can be kind of a hard matchup. Yellow, obviously, yellow trumps everything, but especially black blockers, it can be difficult to deal against, since they are reducing your DP all the time, and if you're not outright deleted by it, your blockers are so weak that they're not going to survive blocking anything. And then Blue Hexabluemon can be challenging too if he gets you down on your evolution stacks. You unfortunately won't be able to block anything, so that can be a bit of a bummer. However, we do have access to ways to remove a Hexabluemon, either through De-Digivolve or through deletion through Omnimod Zord, or even just straight up counterattacking with a rebooted WarGreymon. So there's definitely ways to play around that, but it's definitely a threat that can hinder the whole strategy, and you need to be playing for that. I will say on the plus side, it does wonderful against purple. There's hardly any purple cards in existence that can really take on the black blocker wall once you have Craniamon on the field, and they are forced to go wide, and you can just kind of go wide right with them with your variety of blockers and then delete them as you're going. So far, I have not lost to a purple deck with this build yet, which has been a saving grace of it. But hey, thanks for stopping by. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy the Digimon content. We'll be having more of it here, so definitely stay tuned. Let me know what you guys thought about the deck build, if you had any ideas for it, and what are you running right now in BT5 format. I'll catch y'all next time.